Beautiful day.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it out there. Lot smoother day two, just in terms of the players getting used to the individual drills. There's a rhythm for how our coaches take the guys through it. Next guy up, here we go. You know, there's kind of a cadence. Everything's on a clock. So I thought there was a lot better understanding today of what we were looking for. Offensively, you know, just kind of adding wrinkles with the cadence, you know, just working through those issues as a group. You know, kind of saw some of that happening, and then I couldn't pull myself away from the just the rush group down there with Coach Wash. You know, they were getting after it pretty good. So, and some big men moving. So it was excited to see them.
Dave, is there a guy who you kind of model your communication with players and coaches from, like during your coaching career? Is there like a guy that you said, this guy just like eloquently explains stuff, and I want to kind of follow the way his process is when explaining a procedure or a play?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to leave any of my bosses out. Start at the beginning. You know, I had Jeremy Bates in 2010 as our offensive coordinator, Darrell Bevel after that, then Brian Schottenheimer, and then Shane Waldron. All had a little bit different styles, but all of them cared about the same things: the details, the alignment, being able to slow things down, start it over to get exactly what we're looking for. And of course, just Pete. You know, Coach Carroll was. You know, his style was, there was such immediate feedback. You know, that's kind of as I'm floating around the field looking for the coaches to have that immediate feedback. You can coach something within 30 seconds of that last snap before the next one gets going. So immediate feedback, there's that window where the brain is so receptive of what just happened. So really trying to capture those things. And then coaching what we're looking for, not coaching what not to do. That's our style as a coaching staff, and that's the approach that I've always taken with my players, is to say, do this as opposed to, hey, don't do that. You know, so there's a difference in the language there. And then really cool for Carl Smith, affectionately known as Tater, one of my mentors for sure. He's Tracy Smith, our special teams coach's dad, and has been in the league for a long time. And I spent probably the most time one-on-one in position groups with him over the years. So it's a really proud moment to have him come. I can't wait to talk to him to see what he saw at practice. And you know, that's really the metric for me, is the people I know well, that know what I'm trying to get done. Did it come to life today? So I can't wait to talk to him.
You spent some time talking to the Capers out there.
Yeah.
Having a former head coach on your staff, how does that help you?
Well, two of them, right? Coach Caldwell as well. I got a wealth of knowledge just right here in the building. So it's probably a once a week thing. They'll pull me aside and say, hey, when you're approaching this, you might want to think about, and then they always start off with, hey, this is just a suggestion, but like I don't take those things lightly as suggestions. You know, I take it to heart and I evaluate it. And while sometimes it fits into what we're doing, at a minimum, it's always just such a great opportunity for me to learn my first time around what works best for the staff, what works best for our players. So I love just still in those moments, you know, and especially when we're evaluating, you know, defensive players with Coach Capers, is sit there and say, what do you see with this guy? What do you see with that guy? You know, do you think he's got the movement skills required for our system? So really, really cool to have them in the building.
Dave, we didn't see while we were there any kicking or punting. Are you all doing that privately with these guys as you decide which, if either of the two kickers, to hold on to?
The kickers get going before, so you know, the goal with that is just because our practices are a lot shorter than the traditional practice where you have periods, you take a break, do special teams. We really just put it at the beginning, so while they're loose, they're warm, they're ready to go, we get those kicks done so Tracy can evaluate what they're doing.
What have you seen from each of those two guys, and is the idea that you would keep one of them to compete with Eddie, or is the Irishman more of a punter?
Yeah, that's something we still got to talk about as a staff. But I think first and foremost, what I see out of both of them is just a lot of power, which is really cool. That's a great starting point. You know, I think the technique things, you know, being around kickers for a long time, guys who have been on their third and fourth teams that I've seen, they get better every year. You know, it's like golf. You know, that golf swing, I mean, for people that golf, you know, like you just continue to have things to improve on, or you maybe your technique starts to get a little sloppy in this area. So it's very, very similar that way. So, but at a minimum, you know, they have the raw power and talent to be able to do it.
I saw Xavier working out with special teams coach.
Yeah.
What was going on there?
Oh, yeah, gunner drills, right? So special teams is a premium for us. This is something that, on game day, we just don't get a lot of players, and something that our players have to get used to is as they come into the NFL, we have these many helmets today. So if something happens, they all got to be ready to contribute. That's how we were able to build great teams in Seattle was, Doug Baldwin as a starter early on. He was playing on teams, on cover units, and he could get in the vice. And so just making sure that Xavier has that starting point. And he's such a natural athlete. Watching him take his first couple steps, it was really cool. And Darren Bates is doing a great job down there with the Gunners.
David, we talked about you not subscribing to the whole XYZ wide receiver thing, but from Sanders' standpoint, given his background, do you view him as more of like an F or like a bigger slot, or how do you think he fits into this puzzle?
Well, the cool part is, like I've been, saying, is we look for those versatile type of tight ends, and so we're going to ask him to play the F and the Y in different situations. So a known pass, he's the Y. And when you get into 12 personnel, he's a guy you can move around a little bit more, maybe play him in the slot a little bit. But I think right now it's about the basics. It's about just teaching him the steps of a run game. It's about teaching him the formations, and he's got a long way to go in terms of just picking up the fundamentals. So I think his role will grow over time, but we just have to make sure we incrementally build that for him.
Hey, Coach, any sleepers? I noticed you had a pretty emotional response to McClendon on one of his drills.
Yeah, well, so the cool part is Steve McClendon's his cousin, and Steve was with us as an intern coach in Tampa last year. Got to spend some time with him. So just kind of watching him, just seeing, what he's been working on and have an opportunity to kind of, maybe pick Steve's brain about things. But as far as sleepers go, I really don't want to start throwing names out there because as guys come and go, it's kind of to our advantage not to have the whole league know and see what we see in these guys.
Dave, happy belated birthday to you. Were you able to, what was your first birthday like in Charlotte?
Oh, it was great. So I went to Tampa. My wife and kids, they'll be up here soon. But we had a nice weekend there and then got back into town. And, Jessica Beckinson, she's my assistant, and she just kind of, she had some really nice treats in the building. And for me, I think the highlight of my birthday was just having the staff, all the guys just kind of coming around, saying happy birthday, being able to work with people that I really enjoy.
You said treats. What are your treats you like?
Couple of cupcakes, but it's just, my wheelhouse is peanut butter and chocolate and key lime. So that's what the cupcakes were. And they disappeared pretty quick. So.
Dave, you made an analogy about golf. Are you a golfer?
No, not really. I felt like with Wells Fargo happening right now, was able to hear from Jim Nantz last night, talking about Quail Hollow and the lineup and all that. So just kind of in the spirit and the mood of the season.
Dave,
So you went go for it, Joe.
at the owners' meetings, you had mentioned maybe a veteran quarterback in that number 3 spot.
Yeah.
And then, we saw you sign the Louisville kid.
Yeah.
What are you thinking now as your thinking changed?
Yeah, what we always like to do is to add people, especially guys that have some kind of exposure to our system. I'm looking for value, for the quarterback room. What do they bring for that room, for Bryce in particular, And so the good part about Jack is I saw some accuracy, his ability to get up at the line, spit the plays out and all that. So I'm excited about having him just being able to operate that way. But I would certainly feel like we would still have our ears to the ground and see if there's anybody that might be interested in coming and being a part of what we're doing.
Does he have any experience to this system or background in this system?
No, I wouldn't think so. Mm-hmm.
Everybody good?
Did you have something else you can ask?
It was just going to be something that was personal. But since you called on me,
Yeah.
can I ask the final question. You talked a lot about, you mentioned, I wasn't here yesterday, but you mentioned Jalen and his intangibles.
Yeah.
Talk about Jalen Coker. I'm curious, outside of him as a football player, as his measurables, is there something that strikes you about him as a person or, something off the field that intrigued you about him?
I haven't really gotten to spend a lot of time one-on-one with these guys. I'm excited to get to know them a little bit more as we introduce them to the whole team on Monday. But just from film, he looks like a guy who really just has a good football sense and awareness to him. So I'm excited to see that. And then, of course, can't say it enough, guys that are joining our team, they're going to have to be able to contribute on special teams. So I can't wait to see him in some more of those drills. And then, of course, when we get into more competitive situations, we'll be able to evaluate that too.
And the rookie's gonna gonna have to go back to school, or are they all gonna be able to be here for the entire team?
I don't know that right now. Yeah.
Dave, do you have like an example of a guy who maybe was undrafted in your career that you coached that maybe stood out on special teams and you said to yourself, hey, this guy could be a good wide receiver, or hey, this guy could be a good tight end, or something like that? A guy that was maybe kind of a diamond in the rough. Sort of.
We had, we played with 5 undrafted free agents in Super Bowl 49. Doug Baldwin, you know, certainly made a name for himself as a receiver, played as a rookie, but he was on all the cover teams. He played on punt return. Ricardo Lockett was another one. Jermaine Kearse was another one. Brian Walters, who had return value, and then Chris Matthews, who was a 6'5", 230-pound wide receiver, matchup on punt rush. So we love those guys, and I can't say it enough. I can't back Tracy Smith, our special teams coordinator, enough. When these guys get in there, it's like, guys, here's where your attention and your awareness heightens in this meeting right here, because this is how you earn a helmet to play for us during the season. So I'm excited to see who those guys are, you know. And a bunch of defensive guys. I don't want to start rattling off, but Cam Chancellor as a rookie, you know, was on special teams. That's kind of how he made his way into the lineup, and then the rest was history. Became a fantastic safety. So.
You touched on this a little bit yesterday, but could you kind of reiterate why the decision was made to kind of have a smaller group here for rookies? We've seen rookie camps where there's 50 guys out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, really to just get a concentrated look at the guys that we are counting on to be on our roster going forward and go into training camp. And also to just introduce them. So I think one of the things that we achieved in these last 2 days is to prepare them for the level of work, the intensity of the work. You know, there were some guys, some big eyes out there said that yesterday, but it's a little bit of a shock, you know, the pace and the tempo. So I think we really valued that part, giving them confidence to at least hop into individual drills with our guys, and then so that they're not coming in there without a full base and knowledge of what we're doing, you know. So, and incrementally just bring them along conceptually over the next couple of weeks.
Last question from Cassidy. You have one?
Yeah, prior to Rory walking in the building, were you familiar at all with Gaelic football and what it might entail?
No, I've heard it's like a combination of like soccer, football, rugby, maybe a little bit of basketball. So I'm really interested to just sit with him and kind of pick his brain about the rules of it. So I hadn't had much of an experience with that yet.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.